Attention all patriots. It's time for the Signal 50 podcast, where we talk about the hard truth about today's current events.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Signal 50 podcast for Sunday, June 13th, 2021. Good evening, my good friend Bravo. How are you tonight, good sir?
Alpha, it's the weather I like. I think you would think you were in San Diego, where it's the same weather all the time, but it's not, and we're not in San Diego. So there you have it.
Well, it felt a little bit like Seattle here in the mid-Atlantic today. Just raining, just kind of gloomy, wet day here in the mid-Atlantic. Anyhow, with that being said, welcome to the Signal 50 podcast tonight, everybody. Thanks for joining us this week. It's been a long, hectic week, kind of a crap weekend for a number of different reasons. But we have a lot of things that we want to talk about tonight. And, you know, we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on in Pennsylvania with some of the election reforms going on there. Christopher Sign is a name probably nobody's familiar with. We're going to point out who that gentleman is here in just a few minutes. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the overreach by the government agencies and some of the reaction to COVID that we think. We're going to talk a little bit about border security this evening, and they're coming to the stunning realization that maybe the cartels are making it across the border. Funny thing.
You think?
Jeez.
Terrorists.
Yeah, maybe. So we'll talk a little bit about the Arizona Attorney General not taking any grief over the audit that's going on down there. That's a very interesting story. So we'll have to talk about that. We'll talk a little bit about Israeli politics and Benjamin Netanyahu is no longer going to be prime minister. He's lost, so he'll be moving along. Got some good news, bad news thing, right? Good news, bad news. I don't know if anybody out there knows, but I really like dogs, right? And I follow Westminster and the dog show. We want to talk a little bit about some of the goings on at Westminster this year. Is a little bit different for the dog show. Usually they do it at Madison Square Gardens. They did it at a private estate this year. Long story short. And we'll talk a little bit about a Hollywood mainstay who's been around forever. He's been in everything, and he's no longer with us. Ned Beatty. Ned Beatty has passed away. That's unfortunate. So let's begin at the beginning, and let's talk a little bit about the goings on in Pennsylvania and some of the stuff that's going on there.
So, welcome everyone. We're the two American patriots that love to talk about current events. We give you the events that are never really talked about on the old LIvestream media. That's NBC and CBS. Fox News, I'm now putting in there. All the other stations that you would think you would hear these stories from, but you don't. So Alpha and I will be more than happy to tell you all about it. And then you can follow our sources, tell us what you think, make up your own minds, and look into them further. But I think being a aware public, a notified public, helps us all make sure that we're not getting taken to the cleaners. So that's just something to keep in mind. But we are the two American patriots that love to talk about current events. We can't show our faces. We would be canceled and lose our jobs and be out on the street. But we would still be doing this podcast because we love to talk to you. So thank you for joining us.
Exactly.
And here we go.
Well, thanks a lot, everybody, for joining us. You know, what we like to do is we do like to bring you some of the stories that might be a little bit more obscure, a little bit off to the side, but that are very, very relevant and need to be discussed. So take it away, my friend. Take it away.
So let's start in Pennsylvania. Again, the election, it still seems to be just popping its ugly head all over the place, right, Alpha? I mean, nothing seems to have been done right that day, and I believe it. And from the Epic Times, we want to talk about a story that's going on with the Pennsylvania Republicans introduced a sweeping election reform bill. This is by Alan Zong, and that's on the 12th, so that was yesterday. And just to hit the highlights, but they're going to allow early in-person voting beginning in 2025. This is in that bill they're putting out there. They want to allow, they're allowing unsigned or undated ballots to be corrected before 8 p.m. on election day. So they're going to, I forgot to put, I don't know how I like that, but whatever. Giving counties the option to use secure mail-in ballot drop boxes during specific times at secure locations. All right.
I don't know about that. How'd that work out for us? How'd that work out for us on the last go round? But anyhow, go on.
They're trying to make everyone happy here, I think. Allowing mail-in ballots to be counted 5 days before an election. Current laws allow the count to begin no earlier than 7 a.m. on election day. I guess they want to get ahead of the count. Sorry. Requiring every voter present photo ID at the poll. I like that one. I would go with that one. I would speak pro to that if I was a lawmaker in Pennsylvania. Requiring signature verification for mail ballots. Okay, if they're going to compare signatures and verify, that's good. Eliminating the permanent mail-in voting list. That sounds okay, I guess. Establishing a Bureau of Election Audits under the State Auditor General's office. That would be kind of nice. Audit, it's like your taxes. Get audited, at least you know you're getting audited the right way.
Well, here's the thing. Hold
Sure.
on one second. This is the vote in this country is a sacred cow, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And I don't understand why everybody's having such, getting the vapors and clutching their pearls over an audit. Because we all know why, but at the end of the day, that should be public information. And every vote and every election really should be audited, just out of fairness. Period.
Sure. Well, I think there's two points to that, real quick, Alpha. One, if you have the election, you have nothing to hide, then you would say, "Come on in. Here's all the information. Please take a look." It's kind of like what I think when I do my taxes. There you go. Nothing to hide. I'm not trying to cheat you out of it. I may have made a rounding error, my mistake, but I'm not trying to, scam the government out of the money that I have to pay them. I don't want to pay any more, but I'll pay them. The other part of this is, don't you want to know what really happened on that day? I mean, I didn't see anything about poll watchers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania being harassed, harangued, thrown out of the site where they couldn't see what would need to be checked and reviewed. People are being thrown, all the Republican poll watchers are being thrown out of there. So I think that this proposal needs to address that issue also. I think, I don't know how I feel. I think election day should be election day, period. Go vote. It's your responsibility. It's your right, but you also have you need to get there and vote. I'm not sure these 5-day long mail-in ballots. I mean, I think you should have absentee ballots if you're requested and you can't get to the polls and you have a reason. That's fine. I don't know. I think they should find out what happened first. On November 3rd, 2020, they need to find out and do an audit right now, and then come out with proposals to reform their bill. This seems a little rushed to me, Alpha, and I don't like it. They need to find out what happened first.
Well, I'm going to tell you what happened. What happened is for one reason or another, we had a global pandemic. We've already discussed this ad nauseum, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that gave people the opportunity to go ahead and bend and change the rules as they saw fit to make their assumptions of what good science surrounding preventing people from getting sick around an election would be. And it just so happens that mail-in ballots and drop boxes and the way things were done were just coincidentally really conducive to potentially having serious accountability problems surrounding an election. So, convenient, but it is what it is. And I think time is going to tell on all of it. I think if we're going to be really serious about elections, and it doesn't seem to me that anybody really is, make Election Day a national holiday, okay?
I like that.
That way, if you're CONUS, you have no excuses. Get to the polls. Go vote in person. And I've got news for you. If India, one of the largest populated nations in the world, also one of the poorest per capita, by the way, if they can issue everybody a photo ID and require it to vote, I don't understand why we can't here. And to say that having to have an ID is racist is just, it's a false argument. It is ridiculous. That's like saying minorities are too stupid to go get identification.
And we're not saying that here on the Signal 50 podcast.
No, we're not saying that.
But that's the implication. That. I agree 1,000% with you, Alpha. That is the implication. Right. What happens when you say it's racist because people can't get an ID? That is a load of crap. And we all can get ID. We all know how to do it. And we're not dumb. Thank you very much, Democrats. But anyway.
Well, you need an ID to go get Sudafed, don't you? You can't get Sudafed without identification. Right. Over-the-counter medication. No. You can't get public assistance without identification, right?
Correct.
Can't get a Social Security check without identification, right?
Correct.
Huh. Interesting. How do you fill out? How do you fill out a W-9 or a W-2? How do you get a job? You have to have identification.
You have to go through employment verification. You have to show your passport, or you have to show a license, a birth certificate.
Right. E-Verify.
That's right.
And even people out there that are unfortunate and are homeless to collect public benefits, those people all have government issued identification. Isn't that funny? So I don't want to hear it anymore.
That's right.
It's a load of crap. Anyhow, moving on.
Enough of that.
Exactly. Well, here's a little story. Here's a little story. There's a guy out there. His name is Christopher Sine. He's a veteran reporter, and he's an anchor person from Alabama, right? He is the person who broke the story of, Bill Clinton meeting with Loretta Lynch on a tarmac in the private plane.
Where they were talking about their grandkids?
Yes, right. And golf and such. He was a 45-year-old guy, just committed suicide. Huh.
All of a sudden. Who knew it? Who knew?
Who'd have thunk it? Huh.
Was it a parent suicide or was he suicided?
I don't know, man. Arkancide is a real thing. I have no idea, but apparent suicide, they're calling it, according to police. So, isn't it funny how a lot of people or surrounding the Clinton orbit, I think the count is 92 over the years, have died under, for reasons, right?
Well, the most famous was Epstein in the middle of incarcerated, where the guards just happened to have gotten up and walked away, and the video cameras failed. And we were talking the last show, Alpha. Remember what we were saying? We don't ask enough questions or are not skeptical enough to say, I call BS on that. And that just doesn't seem right. You have to prove it to me that actually happened. Because I don't believe you.
Well,
I'm skeptical of the fact that you said.
45-year-old guy, he's the one who broke the story about Bill Clinton and Loretta Lynch on the tarmac, right? Just happens to be dead. And there's a lot of stuff that's still going on behind the scenes. I'm not sure that there isn't a lot of criminal stuff going on. When was he supposed to testify from TJ Hop? Great question. That is where I was heading next. I mean, it's like there's got to be something.
TJ.
Yes, thank you, TJ. There's got to be something going on somewhere, and it's really interesting. He was probably supposed to testify, probably to the grand jury at some point, but I'm not sure that we're ever going to know that. It's just astounding to me. This stuff is happening right before everybody's eyes, and nobody's paying attention to it.
The gall, the hubris, the chutzpah that these people have to think that they're above the law. Something's gotta change because they just keep doing it.
You bet. Well, some people are just untouchable.
Oh, hopefully that'll change soon. I'm holding my breath.
So, we've spent a lot of time, we're moving along rather quickly here, actually a little too quickly. We spent a lot of time talking about, COVID and the response to COVID and people closing things and basically shutting the country down, shutting down the economy, putting people out of work. And on June 30th, the music is going to stop for evictions and foreclosures and repossessions as well.
You want to explain that just a little bit? Just because, remember, the CDC said to banks, you can't throw people out of their homes if they can't pay their rent or they can't pay their mortgages.
That's right.
That was from the CDC. It was not a governmental action, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Right. It's governmental. It's on the state by state basis. Additionally, the CDC came out because the CDC has broad sweeping powers that they may have overreached maybe just a little bit to keep people in homes past the point of them being able to pay their mortgages, et cetera, to stop the spread of a virus. So those protections expire in a number of different states June 30th. Additionally, a lot of the governors have decided to discontinue the additional $300 a week kicker for unemployment to encourage people to go back to regular work because it's been more lucrative to stay home.
Correct. And they're still bumping up the unemployment benefit. Normally it's a quarter of what you get or half of what you get. The government's still tacking on another $300, I believe, right now.
That's what it is. It works out to be about $300 a week. So people are making more money staying home than working. A lot of people.
So they're adding that 300 plus whatever benefit they normally get. So
Correct.
It does, and they're not, and we're seeing signs all over the place, right, Alpha? A lot of restaurants want to hire and get back into the swing of things, and people are making more money sitting on their tuchuses instead of working, and they don't want to work, and they can't find anyone to work these things. So I think there's an issue.
Well, this is a sign of it's a big problem. It's a very, very large problem. When you need to reopen the economy and move things forward, and you can't find anybody to help you do it, you've got yourself a serious problem. So, along with that, we've discovered that a lot of the public school systems have closed. For reasons and have remained closed. And a lot of the teachers are refusing to go back to work, etc. So a lot of this is starting to be challenged in court, and it's starting to be challenged. So the next story, go ahead.
Yes. This is from Just the News. Our friend, Mr. Solomon, love his site. He basically, they're talking about this, and we were just talking, we gave the kind of the intro into this. Wisconsin's top court rules city health agency lacks power to close schools over COVID. So the Wisconsin Supreme Court ruled Friday against Dane County in a case that centered on its order from last August to close all schools in the county because of the coronavirus. Wow. Isn't that something? Just think about that for a second. You have this county health agency that says, close the schools. And the effect, the domino effect that occurs to the parents who can't work because they're home with the kids, and the kids suffering from all kinds of delays in their psychological development, and the lack of social interaction, and the demeaning parts of, their development is solely based upon interactions with others. That's how they learn. So it's about time. I think it's I think it's too long. Anyway, but the according to just the news, the Wisconsin Supreme Court ruled that local health officers cannot close schools within their jurisdictions. We're extremely disappointed, and this is from their reaction after the court came out with this. We are extremely disappointed in the court's decision, which has much further reaching implications than just the current pandemic, Health Director John Herrick said. Quote, this decision hinders the ability of local officers in Wisconsin to prevent and contain public health threats for decades to come, period, end quote. I don't know if I agree with you, health directors, Janelle Henrick, because you blew it. You didn't work to get the problem under control. You didn't work to get them back into school. And you took away the parents' rights to make decisions for their own children's health. That is where I disagree with you, Henrick.
Well, there's a deeper issue that we really need to address that's not being talked about, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Coronavirus was a thing, okay? And it affected a lot of people that were vulnerable to it.
Mm-hmm.
Children largely were not part of the demographic that were affected. And every year we have children in school who unfortunately succumb to viral or bacterial meningitis, forms of pneumonia, flus, etc. And we can't, along these lines, those cases were just as rare as children dying from coronavirus. So should we, in fact, because those things are laying out there, should we, in fact, close the schools because of those risks as well? The answer is we have never done anything like this before. Now, were some of the teachers at risk? Yes. Okay. I'll go on that journey. However, we're not talking about these children missing a year and a half of education. These children dying from drug overdoses, suicide, falling into deep states of depression. Children are not meant to be isolated. That's why we teach children in groups.
Child abuse.
It is bad. You're making these children sit in classrooms with teachers that have been vaccinated, and the teachers' unions, they're not concerned about the children as much as they might be concerned about some of the teachers that could be vulnerable. Let me ask you a question. If we're so confident in the vaccinations that have been handed out to the population, why are we even talking about it?
Oh, because the narrative has to continue. The control has to be enabled.
Right. Why are we putting masks on children? And then now here's another kicker. I am not an anti-vaxxer at all. I think that there are some vaccinations out there that children really should have. And I think there's a lot of vaccinations out there that children really probably shouldn't have. And I'm not so sure that we should be subjecting 10 and 12-year-old children to an mRNA vaccine that has not been fully, and I mean fully, FDA approved. Everybody needs to remember, when anybody says that these vaccinations have been FDA approved, the answer is yes, they have been, only for emergency use, not for clinical applications across the board. And they have been deemed safe. And I don't know what the percentage of cases needs to be for something to be declared safe by the FDA. But as it stands, these vaccinations are experimental. They are not fully FDA tested. They have not been tested against all of the demographic groups thoroughly. They have not gone through all of the animal testing protocols as best as I understand it to be. Stop me when I'm wrong.
Well, you're right. I mean, but the other issue is, again, we all know that the children are not affected as badly as adults. And again, we went through this a couple of shows ago. when you had chickenpox at a more later in adolescence. I had it when I was a child. Your experience sucked a hell of a lot more than my experience, which is just itchy and annoying. But again, there's a couple issues here that they're concentrating again on vaccines. They're not bringing up anything about treatment, because recent studies have shown that the hydroxychloroquine does work. And anyone out there who wants to start running up that tree, all the articles were subdued. It was hidden, and it was purposely maligned.
Right.
So that is we were right on that one. We're also correct on the fact once you get coronavirus, your own body develops immunity towards it. So
That's
this
right.
push to get people immunized when they've already had it, and I'm talking about early on in the stages, they were taking people who have had corona and they're trying to get their antibodies taken off as a blood, from a blood leaching type procedure. And they take some blood and they find your antibodies, and they're trying to give it to other people to try and help treat that.
That's right. I have a
very expensive. Yeah.
I have a very, very good friend of mine who was an early adopter of Corona. He had it in December of 19.
Mm.
And he was super sick.
Mm.
He was really, really, really sick guy. He had some pre-existing issues that made him, shall we say, vulnerable to Corona. He has to go, well, he doesn't have to, but he is going to NIH, the National Institute of Health. He goes once a month and he donates a certain amount of blood, and they pull his antibodies.
Mm-hmm.
And he's turned it into a small cottage industry.
Mm.
They're paying him like $2,000 a trip.
Mm.
How about that?
And he's still got antibodies after all that time.
They say that his antibodies are cooking and he's good to go.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's like, look, once you have chickenpox, you can't get chickenpox again. You just can't. You'll get the shingles probably, which is even more miserable.
Right,
and that's
the
right.
reactivation of the virus that happens to be sitting in your spinal column somewhere in one of the dorsal nerve roots, and it just decides one day to come out the nerve and give you a rash on one side of your body. It hurts like hell, and there's now a vaccine for that. So
that's something that I am definitely going to be signing up for.
Yeah, shingles sucks. I can tell you, not personally, but I've seen it. So.
Oh, it's horrible. Look, there's nothing more powerful than natural immunity.
Mm-hmm.
And from the very beginning, when people were saying it doesn't matter if you've had it or not, blah 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 blah, you can get it again, you can do all these things. That is, but we're the people of science. Let me tell you something, people of science. You were incorrect then. Are you lying then? You were lying then. Are you lying now?
I think they're lying both times.
I think it's totally possible. But,
yeah.
Listen, it's just there's been so much false crap thrown around out there about Corona and the way viruses work in general. And you've got, it's no wonder why people in this country have whiplash, because you've got a guy like Fauci who changes his tune. Masks don't work. They do work. If you get it, you're not immune from it. You should get vaccinated. Oh, wait a minute. If you've gotten it, you're good to go. Oh, wait a minute. You should wear multiple masks. Oh, the virus wasn't from the Wuhan lab. Oh, it possible was from a lab leak. We didn't fund gain-of-function experiments. Oh, well, wait a minute. Yeah, we might have done that. So, you know what? Listen, let's cut the crap. Cut the crap.
Please cut it.
Please cut the crap.
And everything you're mentioning there, Fauci has really set back the scientific community many years. Also, but brought out how the funding really works, and that if you don't give the results that they're looking for, or if you toe the conclusion line, or like what they're coming up with, then you lose your funding. And I think the whole system needs to be turned on its head and changed, because we're seeing what happens when people blindly listen and they don't start questioning. Just my 2 cents.
Well, we have to, listen. I think if nothing else, I think a lot of people's eyes that are paying attention in this country have really been opened up to the way government funding on research and development grants works. The government gives a company a grant, and the company goes ahead and takes that money, and they go ahead and they subcontract the scope of work to somebody else who could, in fact, flow down that scope of work or a portion of it to a second or a third tier subcontractor to go ahead and provide services to the second tier, back to the first tier, to the prime contractor. So there's a big money ladder that goes back and forth, and it's incredibly difficult to follow that money. So I think that's something that a lot of people are understanding how government funding of research works and grants, and there's something out there called an OTA, an other transaction agreement, which is this is very technical, and it's something that I'm involved with. It's outside of the federal acquisition requirements. A lot of this R&D money is outside of the FAR, the Federal Acquisition Regulations or requirements. There is the Code of Federal Regulations has got FARs and DFARs. And when you get into government contracting, you have to understand the FARs and DFAR clauses and how they apply to a contract. And there are ways where these contracts are routed and issued around the federal acquisition requirements. Research and development is one of those pathways.
I wonder if we need to close that little loophole.
How about
Unbelievable.
How about the Inspector General of these various agencies needs to be involved in oversight of every nickel, dime, and penny that gets awarded on contract to do this type of research?
That would be a good start. I
think accountability in our government is very important, because it's not your money, it's not my money, it's our money. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's the taxpayers' money. The government does not just create money out of thin air. Where does the government get money from? It takes it out of your paycheck. The guy's name is FICA. Okay. And he's a nasty little guy, FICA, and he's greedy.
Although, Alf, I got to correct you on one thing there. They are printing it out of thin air. And they keep printing it, and they keep making it and devalue. Anyway.
Well, that's another story for another time. So anyhow, everybody out there, we've beaten that to death. This whole COVID thing, as time passes on, I think we're going to. It's going to be the never-ending discussion, right? More and more and more stuff is going to be coming out about what really happened and how did this really happen, right? And where's the money and it's going to take a long time to come out. It probably not anytime soon, because I think that there's a lot of layers to the onion to peel. So anyhow, listen, we've been tracking some of the stuff that's going on the southern border for a long time. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about it in previous shows, and you've got Swampy McSwampface Christopher Wray, okay, up in front of the House Judiciary Committee, talking about cartel activity spilling across the U.S.-Mexico border. This is from the Epoch Times. This is very important for everybody to understand. Policies that have been put in place are encouraging and fostering fostering illegal immigration. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And there's people out there that say there's no such thing as an illegal person. That's true. Okay. There is such a thing as illegal immigration. Okay.
Yep.
There's a right way and a wrong way to do it. Now, the policies of this administration are encouraging a cottage industry of human trafficking. And along with the human trafficking, the only people that are getting rich are not the poor people that are getting coyoted across the border. It's the cartels that are collecting money from these people to move them across the border. It's an
Because they have to
industry.
pay, right?
That's
They have
right.
to pay. The
That's
people
right.
that are coming over the border have to cough up $2,000, $3,000.
Oh,
And then,
it's more than that. It's
right.
deeper than that. And these people are now sold into slavery
Mm,
by the cartels. You will work for us. You will carry our drugs. When you are in the United States, you will work for these people. You will answer to these people. You will be accountable to these people, or we will do very, very bad things to you and your family at home. So you are seeing human trafficking at the behest of the cartels, the likes of which nobody has ever seen before.
and that all was approximately 130 days ago, was not a problem with the previous president of the United States.
Well, it was much less.
produced.
It was okay. Let's be intellectually honest here, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was significantly much less of a problem under the Trump administration because he had a very tough border policy. The stay in Mexico policy. He was building a border wall. He was very, very serious about it. You know, these people, like we've said it before, I cannot blame somebody for trying to flee a bad situation to come to the U.S. I mean, if the U.S. is such a bad place, why are people literally dying to get here?
Mm.
Okay. These people that are all coming across the border are not here to pick avocados in California, all of them. You have a major scourge in this country called MS-13, Mara Salvatrucha 13, an El Salvadoran street gang that is absolutely the epitome of evil. And they have infiltrated every level of society here. At least where I live, MS-13 is a very, very serious problem. These people are violent, they are dangerous, and they are well-funded, and they are working with the cartels to bring people across the border, put them to work, and basically push people into slavery. Prostitution, drugs, rape, you name it. These are the things that these people are doing. This MS-13 is a serious problem. When you get these MS-13 gang members that come across the border, when they move into a territory, all the other gangs disappear. You want to know where they go?
I have no idea.
Dead.
Yeah.
They just kill them.
Mm.
What do you think is happening in Chicago? Do you think that that's just, arguments or disputes gone bad, or do you think that's a giant gang war?
It's a gang war.
I think it's a gang war. Yeah. How about that?
In my opinion. Yeah. Anyway.
MS-13 is as far north as Minnesota, upstate New York, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Florida, Texas, everywhere. Not so much in Texas. They don't really screw around too much in Texas.
Right.
But you have them everywhere, and these are very, very dangerous people. These are very dangerous people, and these are the kinds of people that are rushing across the border right now, and they are working with the cartels to get people across the border. So anyhow, moving along to another border state, and let's talk a little bit about the audit in Arizona. Yeah,
so interesting news for everyone out there that the audit in Arizona, this is the forensic audit, is looking like it will come to they will be done with the counting portion of the audit, where they took all the ballots and they're putting all the data together, and people were inspecting them and looking at them, and that's going to be coming to an end, we're told, by this midweek, because they got down to their last ballot. But the next stage of this forensic audit is going to be moving towards canvassing. What that means is they have vetted, trained volunteers. They're going to go out, they're going to take the voter rolls, and they're going to go out to the addresses, and they're going to start verifying the addresses where people put down for their voting, ballots. Well, guess who doesn't want that to happen? The Democrats, the federal level, they're all not too happy about this. In fact, they just want it to go away. And Merrick Garland, who's the Attorney General for Joe Biden, wanted all to go away and started sending letters to people saying you will be making threats, basically saying you'll be arrested and held criminally responsible if you participate in this canvassing. Well, Wendy Rogers, who's the Attorney General for Arizona, tweeted this out. You will not touch Arizona ballots or machines unless you want to spend time in an Arizona prison. Maybe you should focus on stopping terrorism. The Justice Department is one of the most corrupt institutions in the USA. That was what she tweeted out. Wow. This was talked about.
Round of applause for Wendy Rogers.
Yes, a round of applause. There you go.
Well, good for you, Wendy. Okay, so
that is
everybody,
awesome.
That is awesome, and I'm going to tell you why it's awesome. Everybody out there needs to remember, we have a very smart audience, okay? Everybody understands that elections are not federal. They are local.
Local.
That's
exactly.
right. They are done on a state level.
Mm-hmm.
They are not federal elections. The federal government has no business poking around in Arizona's business.
Unless they have something to hide and they don't want the truth to come out.
Imagine
Did I say that out loud? I did.
You did. It's totally possible that they're trying to hide something.
Go figure.
I don't know. It'll be very, very interesting to see what's going on. So I'm really interested to see how this goes, because you've got Pennsylvania threatening an audit. You've got Michigan teetering on an audit. You've got Wisconsin already starting some audit activity. You've got a couple of other places looking at audits. Nevada, Missouri, Georgia, etc., etc. So,
and Georgia, by the way, the video that came out in the middle of the night where they grabbed those ballots from underneath the table, allegedly, and started stuffing them in the machine over and over again, allegedly. The person that was doing that was just has been subpoenaed to provide a deposition as to what happened. And I believe there are other lawyers involved, specifically not election lawyers, but defense lawyers, that I think are trying to stop that deposition from happening. I wonder why.
I wonder if they're acquainted with Christopher. That person happens to be acquainted with Christopher's sign. Hey. Anyhow, could have the same fate there. Geez. Careful. Hey, listen, it's going to be very interesting. Everybody's saying, well, Trump is going to be president again and all this other stuff. That's totally not the case. That can't happen. Regardless of the outcome of these audits, they're not going to change the results of the election. Okay?
Yeah, they're talking about decertifying elections.
I don't know where that goes. That'll be a very interesting discussion. We'll have to learn where that goes if that ever happens. It'll be very interesting. There's a theory out.
Although, real quick, Alpha, if you think about the senators and what happens in elections, senators have been taken, they have decertified elections for senators. This is senators, not president. I get it. But the senators have been taken out of the office and the other person was put in, or congressmen or women, they've been taken out, put in back in. Again, not sure what's going to happen here, but the president's a whole different ball of wax. So
that's a big ball of yarn. So anyhow, there's a bunch of people out there with a theory that Trump is going to run for Congress in Florida. He's going to run for a congressional seat. And when he runs for the congressional seat, he's going to take a lot of people with him. We're going to win a majority in the Congress, and we're going to win a majority in the Senate in 2022. So a lot of people are talking about, I don't know if this is true or not. I think it's a relatively amusing theory. that he'll go ahead and he'll win, because if Trump were to run, he would blow everybody out of the water. Period. Full stop. He'd win. Like, as far as I'm concerned, it's a no-brainer. And then he would become the Speaker of the House, and then he would start an impeachment proceeding against Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Both of them, get them impeached. Speaker of the House becomes president. We get Trump for another year plus another 4, maybe. I don't know. Wishful thinking, but I think it's kind of a funny theory, don't you?
Yeah, well, there's something else real quick, that he doesn't have to be elected to the House of Representatives. He can actually be voted by the majority of who would be Republicans, and you can be the Speaker of the House and not a sitting Congressperson.
Oh God, that would be hilarious. That would be absolutely hilarious.
And then he's president. Anyway, I get it.
So anyhow, we got to move on here a little bit. I don't know if anybody knows this. I'm deeply involved with the nation of Israel on a number of different things. No. We're gonna talk about this one.
All right.
Okay. So everybody's favorite Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, he's out. He's no longer the prime minister. You've got a guy named Naftali Bennett, and he's going to be prime minister until 2023. And in the deal that was forged, Yair Lapid will take over in 2023. Okay, so understanding Israeli politics is an awful lot like trying to understand quantum physics. Okay, it will give you a headache. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to us. It's a parliamentary system, but they have coalitions, and it's very strange. It's very different. I can't imagine 50 Israelis in a room together arguing about this. There'd be 300 opinions. I say that as a term of endearment because I work with Israelis every single day. So it's just very, very interesting how this works. So we just wish, Benjamin Netanyahu, a very good politician. He's got some challenges over there in Israel. I wish him all the best of luck in everything that he does. He's truly a heroic guy. He did some really cool things. I'll miss him. I think he's a pretty cool dude. I think he was overall pretty good. We'll have to, wish the Naftali Bennett and Yair Lapid and their coalition. We'll have to wish them all of the best of luck in leading the nation of Israel. I think they'll do just fine. Israel's a strong place, a very cool place. So, good luck to you guys. I wish you all the best. So, and on that note, let's talk to a little bit about a little humor here. We all know that dogs are the greatest animals that were ever put on the face of the earth, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you got a border collie named Verb, and I've been talking to a certain somebody about border collies for a while. I don't know if anybody understands or knows what a border collie can't do. Go onto YouTube and go watch some border collie videos. Mm-hmm. If you leave your car keys out on the counter and you've got a border collie, your car's going to be gone. They're going to drive down the road, and they're going to be like later, they're going to take off. They are that smart. So this guy named Verb, his name is Verb, he wins the agility title at Westminster Dog Show, the Westminster Kennel Club Dog Show. Usually they have it at Madison Square Gardens, and they have a big thing. But because of COVID, they had it out at an estate. They did an outdoor event for the first time, and I guess the dogs all had a great time. And I don't know if anybody's ever watched the Westminster Kennel Club show. It's usually done in the winter. They did it this summer. It's really neat to see the dogs. This was the agility portion of it. It's a lot of fun to watch the Westminster Kennel Club.
That's great.
Yeah, it is great. They're very, very funny. There's an Australian cattle dog that won one of the other categories of agility. His name is Plop. I love the names. I love the dogs. They're all fantastic. So, everybody, there's nothing better than a good dog.
Mm-hmm.
So, that being said, some not so good news.
Mm-hmm.
We've all grown up watching movies, and that's a familiar face. His name is Ned Beatty. Mm-hmm. Ned Beatty passed away today.
Mm-hmm. He was a very talented actor. He also was a very good stage actor also. And
yes. Well, hold on
I
one
remember
second.
him
One of his most memorable stage appearances is where this picture came from. If anybody out there can see, he was Big Daddy Pollitt in Tennessee Williams' Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. He was fantastic. I've seen that show. So moving on. I don't know if we've lost Bravo or not. Bravo,
I'm here. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Got quiet.
Technical difficulties, ladies and gentlemen.
That's okay. Sorry. We're going to have to fire our producer.
Sorry.
So Ned Beatty, he passed away. He's been in a lot of movies. Like one of the more recent ones, it's always on the USA Network at A&E is Shooter. Okay, he was a sitting senator. He was not a good guy, and he was pretty old in that movie. That movie came out a long time ago. Interesting side note: I actually worked on that movie.
No, really? What'd you do there?
I was the one who helped build the gun that Mark Wahlberg used, the Shytac intervention rifle. We rigged it for the movie in our shop in Minnesota, and so I played a very, very small part in that movie, kind of the headliner gun in the movie. If you're a gun person, I worked on that gun. That I've actually fired that gun, that very same gun. And we deactivated it for the movie, and we adapted it for blanks. So I had a lot to do with that movie, and I enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun. And Ned Beatty was a prominent figure in the movie too. So,
wow,
Ned, thank you for entertaining us for all these years. Very notable actor and a pretty good dude. So, on that note, that is a loss, and that's pretty much all we have for tonight.
Yep, that's all we got. Hopefully, everyone enjoyed it. Again, sorry about the technical interruptions, but we do have lives also. Anyway, we are the Signal 50 podcast. We hope that you catch us on Rumble, YouTube. We're also available on podcasts, all your favorite podcast outlets. You can bring us with you if that's the case. If you can't catch us on the live stream. And as always, Alpha, you have some affiliates you'd like to talk about?
Absolutely. I'd like to give a shout out to our affiliate, POF USA, POF-USA.com, makers of the finest AR-15 style rifles anywhere on the planet. Took mine out to Quantico Sportsman's Club very recently, and I was ringing the gong at 465 yards with that rifle. Fantastic rifle. Shot a competition with it yesterday, and you know what? I got to tell you, it's fast, it shoots great, and it's the envy of everybody out on the line. Everybody wants one, and I've got one. They don't, so go get one. Go call up POF USA. Call them up. They're out in Arizona, made by Patriots for Patriots. Everything is made in the United States. 95% of that rifle is made in-house in their vertically integrated manufacturing facility in Chandler, Arizona. Give them a look. Go to their website, pof-usa.com. Also, Mark's Guns, LLC. Good friend of ours, Mark. He's up in Minnesota. He's an FFL. He'll order anything you want. He'll ship it to your FFL. Very minimal markup. Great guy. Excellent dude to do business with. Very enjoyable fellow. So, and on that note, some exciting stuff coming up for the Signal 50 podcast. We're forging an alliance with one of the largest YouTube channels in existence with about 10 million subscribers. So we're hoping to, yes. So we're hoping to get a little bit of collateral marketing going with them. We've already started the process, and we're going to have a merch store coming up real soon. You'll be able to get T-shirts and hats and all those kinds of things. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a percentage of the proceeds. We'll decide what charity we're going to send it to, and we'll go down that road. We don't need the money. We want to do good with what we're doing here. So anyhow, on that note, we really hope you've enjoyed the program. It's Sunday night. Everybody go to bed, get some rest, because, Monday ends in Y. It's the worst day of the week. Anyhow, we'd like to. It's terrible. We'd like to thank our soldiers, sailors, and airmen for protecting us 24/7, 365. If you're deployed, God bless. Stay safe. Come home in one piece. Our police, firefighters, and EMS personnel that work with us out on the street and risk their life for yours every single day of the week. We wish you guys all the best. If you see them, buy them a cup of coffee. They really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, local first responders. They're good people. So on that note, cue the music. Good night, everybody, and have a great week. Thanks for joining us.
Take care, everyone.
Again, thanks for listening. This is the end of our Signal 50 transmission.